It's interesting. I think the East Coast version of the Niners is Miami. McDaniels runs largely Kyle's offense. Tua, like Purdy, when he has time to throw, is and decent movement, throws a very accurate ball. It's not that I dislike Purdy. I see him as kind of a B guy with an A coach. It's
Well,
interesting
the
though.
one thing though I'd push back though is, Kyle for an offensive guy is a tough guy. His teams have been tough. I mean, last year they lost
Yes.
games. They are tough. They've gone into Green Bay. They've gone on the road. They go toe to toe with the Eagles. They own the Rams. Mike
Yes.
McDaniel to me is not a tough guy. Kyle, his dad,
Well,
Mike Shanahan, was a tough guy. He's a tough guy. Mike McDaniel is just not. Vic Fangio laughed at him and left.
sorry to interrupt this great video, but please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you. Now back to the video. So that is my take. So you beat me to it, but it's my point is that a lot of times you can take somebody's system in the NFL, but it's do the players respect you. I mean, there's some of these guys. Bill Parcells had it. Dan Campbell, Mike Vrabel. There's an alpha to stand in front of a bunch of badass dudes, deliver a message, and they buy it. And Mike McDaniel, and you know why he's popular with the media. He looks like a sports writer. He's
Yeah.
kind of small and quirky and clever and funny. And I'm not disputing his brain power. But when I watch Miami, and I do think they have the system and a comparable quarterback, I think Tua is more talented, but he and Purdy kind of share, don't have huge arms, move enough, accurate, smart guys. But Miami, to me, we were talking coaches on the hot seat. Miami has a history of moving off people. And the 2 years before Mike McDaniel got there, they won, I think, 19 games. 2 years, first 2 years with him, they won 20. Is that I think a lot of what he's selling is the Niners without any physicality. They're
Yeah.
not a physical team. It is just it's ice cream cake. You know what I mean? Like there's just nothing to it's just wasted calories. I think McDaniels, to me, for all the money they've spent, I think he's in trouble in Miami with a bad year.
Do you know the irony is the guy they fired, Brian Flores, because he was awful with offense, was an unreal defensive guy, and the team was tough. And then the defense now stinks, and their offensive innovation, I mean, it's stalled a little bit. If you could combine those two, you'd have a real good head coach, right?
That's right.
One thing, I remember talking to Kyle Juszczyk and like him and Kittle, those guys loved Mike McDaniel, right? In the room, how smart he was, how good he was. He was like a savant with the run game. But it's kind of easy to be close with the players and impress them when you're an assistant coach because you're not in charge of finding them or ever getting mad at them in the sense like the head coach or the boss. So you kind of play a unique role, right? You're like middle management, not the CEO laying off everyone. No one blames you. And then you become the guy at the front of the room. And what happened last year? Players were showing up late, and you and I have talked about this. It's obviously not the majority of the team because they can't afford to show up late. It's the rich guys. Well, why do you think they want to trade Jalen Ramsey? You think Jalen Ramsey respects Mike McDaniel? Well, clearly not by his actions if he's not showing up on time.
That's
And
right.
listen, every human being's late every once in a while, but if you're constantly doing it, and Mike even like, listen, my fine system doesn't work, they don't listen. I also think there's an element to I do wonder, Pat Riley runs a very, very tight ship with the basketball team. It's honestly, it's kind of like a Belichickian football operation. And they've fallen off a little bit because they've lost talent, but over the course of 25 years, they have been really, really successful. I almost think you have to do that with the football team to even have a chance with your disadvantages. One, it's a unique city. These guys are all filthy rich now in the NFL. There's a ton to do. When you factor in, I mean, it's just gorgeous weather, basically 365.
Oh, it is. I've had people in the league say GM for the Dolphins is hard. You have to draft maturity, free agency. You can't go get the flashy wide receiver with a big personality. It's like it doesn't work there. There's nothing. It's hard to get into trouble in Buffalo. You can get into trouble at noon in Miami.
It's like you can be like, well, what about LA? I think LA is much more spread out, a little more low key,
It
not
is. It
nearly as
is.
crazy. A lot of places shut down way earlier. There is no time limit in Los Angeles or in Miami. A lot like New York City, but none of the guys are living in the city that play for the Jets or Giants. They all live in the
Yeah.
suburbs. So it's like you're living in the heart of Miami. I wonder if you can win there. It's like one of those places, like some of these colleges, where it's like you could say the same thing for the University of Miami nowadays. Like you're at a pretty big disadvantage with the NIL paying these guys millions. Like, are you ever going to compete to win national championships? I don't know. And I listen, Mike McDaniel, I think they're going to be terrible. I mean, I think they got a chance to be really, really bad. I mean, they are
Same.
one Tua injury away from losing every single game. Yeah, you could fire him, but like, what's the owner going to do? Go after like Kirby Smart because he's going to want some sexy name.
Yeah.
I'm shorting that franchise. It's a little bit of a sexier version of the Cleveland Browns. And unlike like the Cleveland Browns, at least Stefanski and Andrew Barry, they would both get hired. Like those guys are high end. I would hire as my head coach and definitely as my GM. The Miami thing feels like a couple guys a little over their head. And like honestly, you could put John Lynch and Kyle there. I do think they would have an uphill battle because, like you said, the
Well,
guys you need to draft, the guys you need to sign. It's just difficult.
yeah, and I also think, and this is a little bit of the Sean McVay influence. So Sean McVay is young, and all of a sudden, everybody wants to hire the next Sean McVay. And so, like Cliff Kingsbury gets a job, and then Brandon Staley gets a job, and then Mike McDaniel's get a job. These younger guys can get jobs, and they don't necessarily have impressive track records, but McVay didn't, and it's a copycat league. And then you find out how special McVay is that it's almost like Russell Wilson got a lot of smaller quarterbacks drafted. Well, Russell in his prime was about as elusive as
Yeah.
any quarterback I've ever. I'm not saying fast, elusive. He also threw a beautiful deep ball and had a great run game and defense to support him, so he didn't get in a lot of shootouts. It was like make two or three big throws late, and Russell Wilson did. So I think this is what happens in the NFL and always have. People copy, and everybody knows it's moved to an offensive league, and you're just getting a lot of like Brandon Staley. I don't think I've ever seen anything like Brandon Staley. Like the media, which is pretty toothless in LA, it's pretty supportive for a big market media. It's not a Boston or a Philly where it's gnarly and angry, or New York where it's just big and loud. So I think Mike McDaniels feels a little bit like he was sort of in that, hey, that McVay wave. I do think Zach Taylor's decent, maybe not great, but I think it's a wave, and I think you see that. I mean, people think about this, John. There was a point in the NFL where people were hiking the ball to a running back, the Wildcat, and even New England tried it for a while. It's like, guys, you can't hike the ball to a running back. That's not a sustainable offense. So I feel like some of these young guys, Brandon Staley for sure, I think they've been undressed a little bit. Like the league's like they're not ready.
I think Brandon Staley is a good example of someone that almost was like trying to play the Ted Lasso version, like a character of a head coach. I mean, he had been in the league for 3 or 4 years before he got the job. It was a unique situation in LA where it's 2020. They have the one of the greatest players in the history of the league in his prime. They have Jalen Ramsey. They have a great defense, but it's not like he had a long track record of running his own show, and that's only half the team. And then, like you said, I mean, I think when you become the head coach, he was should never have been put in that situation. Because to me, he's a little fraudulent in the way he acts. Like he's not comfortable in his own skin, so he tries to be a
Right.
version of what a head coach was going to sound like. It's where I give a lot of the Shanahan guys credit. They spent a lot of years around Kyle and even around Mike. Like it was a pretty intense environment. They're all like Matt LaFleur is very comfortable in his own skin. Kevin O'Connell, who, not necessarily a Shanahan guy, but McVay around the Grudens, but with Belichick, he's just a good looking former quarterback, comfortable in his own skin. Obviously, McVay and Kyle are very, and I think there's an element you got to be true. Like I think Mike McDaniel is not putting on an act. Like he acted kind of quirky and weird when he was with the Niners. Like that's kind of who he is. I do think that version is hard with players when, let's face it, he looks a lot different than basically every head coach. And he's not a tough guy. So to me, you can never fake toughness. It's not like
Yeah.
Sean McVay is some old school tough guy, but in terms of his intensity, his attention to detail, like that really resonates with guys. Dan Campbell, the Tomlins, the Harbaughs, it's easy for them to be a tough guy because they are tough guys, right?
Yeah.
So, you either have to implement it in the way you practice and the intensity in which you practice, or you have to do it with your personality. And that's where I think Mike is kind of lost in no man's land. And listen, as GM, I mean, their roster's not great, not helping them. You have to have the right type players at the line of scrimmage. I mean, when your offensive line is not good, it's hard to be kind of a tough football team. And then listen, they got a little unlucky, the Tua concussion thing. Because if Tua just played, I think they would be much more functional. But they're never going to be good. Like, how can you prepare to play in 10-degree weather when it's 90 degrees, in December? It's absolutely it's literally impossible. There's unless you're going to fly whatever a week early and just go to
Yeah.
Baltimore on Tuesday and spend the week there, which these teams clearly are a little uncomfortable doing because it throws the rhythm of everyone off. And it's a
Well, yeah.
very disciplined, profession where you like to keep people on the same rhythm of the week.
Yet, John, we've never had a dome or a warm weather dynasty in NFL history. Go back to it. Green Bay Packers, Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s, the New England Patriots, Kansas City. San Francisco is not warm weather, as you well know.
Candlestick was not at all. I mean, how many former Montana January games is it pouring rain or it looks like 58 degrees? It's not 90 degrees there.
Yeah, and Dallas, by the way, it has real winters. So, Dallas is maybe the closest to it because for most of the football season until maybe November, it's not chilly. But we don't really have the Hogs,
Yeah.
the Ravens. We just don't. If you and I've said this before, I think it's such a disadvantage. Think about it. We've never had a dome or a really truly warm weather dynasty. And I think weather does play a factor. And I mean, even the way you draft quarterbacks when you play North, Flacco, Big Arm, Big Ben, Bradshaw, Brady, I think throws as good a bad weather football as I've ever seen. So anyway, I think even Peyton Manning's teams in the dome, like you say to yourself, well, Peyton Manning, Indy. No, they were always good, but they always felt like they were playing second fiddle. I do think playing in a dome and playing in warm weather, I don't think you can fake it. I
Yeah.
just don't think you can fake it.